Lewisburg, Tennessee police officer Christopher Stallings, better known to locals as Officer Cornbread, continues to thrive in law enforcement even in the aftermath of a tragedy that only now comes to light. News Channel 5 covered the events, but here we have an in-depth detail of what happened, along with the mental ramifications that came after. And now that the story is being aired, there have been reports of harassment to the parents of the child who was threatened by Stallings in April. The harassment is reported to be coming from the police officers in Stallings' former department. In April 2020, police were called to the apartment of Marlena and David Stacey due to a domestic dispute involving their 10-year-old daughter. Allie interviewed the family, and here's their account of what happened that night. "I was in the kitchen cooking. Our daughter got angry, and it got worse than it's ever gotten. I thought maybe she needs to talk to someone, like someone in higher authority, because you, the daughter, can't do this. I called them and I asked them to please come out and talk to her. That's all we asked for. We thought maybe it would help her. Well, they came out there, and Officer Stallings already looked like he'd had a bad day, like he was angry about something, and he took his anger out on her. This wasn't what we wanted. We just wanted someone to de-escalate things, not someone who had threatened to bash her head open. Our daughter cried for help, but we couldn't do anything. There were a lot of cops there, all inside the home. My daughter cried and told Stallings she'd give me a hug and a kiss and tell me she was sorry, but he said it was too late for that. If you were my child, I'd bust you up. This child deserves justice. This needs to be out there, that way he can't do it to another kid. Not 3 weeks later, he killed a man and don't get nothing but a slap on the wrist. Just a 2-day suspension. She didn't need to be treated like that. He handcuffed her and everything." And that's all a complete quote from the mother. In May of 2020, Stallings, along with a few other officers, pinned an inmate to the ground, holding him there until his death. His name was William Jeanette, and the crime of which, according to Stallings, deserved death was refusing to get in the restraint chair as he was detoxing from heavy drug use. Stallings' defense attorney claims the use was lawful under these circumstances, while body cam footage tells a different story. Even after Jeanette complied, force remained in use. Another officer is heard in the body cam footage, reported by News Channel 5, saying, "Easy, easy, remember asphyxiation, guys." That's why I'm not on his lungs to let him breathe, but the officers ignored the warnings. The interesting thing to note here, that isn't being reported, is that it wasn't just Officer Stallings at the Stacey's apartment that night. As many as 3 other officers were called to the apartment. The Staceys noted several officers were present during each attack, and they did nothing to stop him. Marlena continues with the aftermath of the incident. And here's what she said. "It was very sad. She suffers from PTSD. She started locking herself up in her room. She shaved her head. She wouldn't come out and speak to people. And anytime she heard a knock on the door, she would run. She didn't know if it was the officers coming to get her or anything. She just didn't know. She threatened to kill herself at school, and she didn't feel like she had any place in the world. For that to happen to a 10-year-old is just not right. We need justice for this baby no matter how bad a kid is. They don't deserve this. She does not deserve to be handcuffed, thrown on the couch, and treated like she was treated. Anyone out there that hears this, please come forward and help us get justice in this county, because if not, it's just going to keep happening and people are going to keep dying." End quote. And this isn't the first time Stallings visited the Stacey residence. Marlena revealed that Stallings had started coming over at the request of the apartment manager for poor living conditions, though evidently the complex is being looked into for its refusal to fix things such as broken air units and water heaters, Marlena said. And here's another quote from Marlena. "The manager, Lori, heard the kids hollering, thought they were fighting, and called the law. He, Stallings, sat down and talked to the kids the first time, and he was really nice with them, calm, and then he kept coming over and checking on the kids. It got to the point where he thought he had authority in our home. He wouldn't talk to David, just me and the kids. He'd keep checking in and asking if the kids' rooms were clean, saying he'd be back in a week to make sure that they made their beds. Then when I called and said I needed someone to talk to my daughter and calm her down, that's when he came over and threatened her and had her on the couch holding her down." End quote. The Staceys expressed belief that there is corruption in the police department. A year after the incident, all 3 of the Staceys' kids were taken from the home. Marlena quotes the reason for this being, "They said I was mentally unstable. I called the law and reported abuse. I called the law and asked them to come and talk to us." She continues, "Now that they've, the cops, found out it's been aired, my husband is being harassed. A cop got behind him and flashed his lights, and then 2 more got behind him. They all had their lights on. My husband pulled over. They literally went around him, rolled their windows down, pointed their fingers at him, and mean-mugged him. End quote. When it comes to her children, they both say they're doing everything to get their kids back. Marlena is grateful, though, for her daughter's foster mom, Amber, who's been helping the child recover from the trauma and giving her the help she needs. Marlena added that Amber keeps her up to date with everything that goes on and says the 10-year-old is still struggling, but is doing better. The apartment building which they reside is currently under investigation for its own shady dealings, refusing to fix necessities such as water and air. This also contributed to the removal of the children from the home. Officer Stallings has since resigned from his former department, only to be hired by the Mount Pleasant Police Department. The chief praised Stallings and called him their top applicant in a memo recommending that Stallings be hired. So far, a grand jury looked into Jeanette's death but did not bring criminal charges against any of the officers. The Staceys intend to pursue legal action along with the sheriff of Marshall County.